everyone, it's Aria here, and I want to share a build I created from a mermaid-themed romance comic called Siren's Lament. I say mermaid, but if you've read the comic, then you know they're actually called sirens. Since a lot of the story takes place at the Carnation Flower Shop, I decided to replicate it to the best of my abilities. And the first challenge I actually faced was before I even started building. I was conflicted on where to build the flower shop, and I was choosing between three places: Magnolia Promenade, the inner town of Windenburg, which is where the bars and cafes are all located, and then the residential island of Windenburg, which is located near the bluffs. From a more realistic perspective, I thought Magnolia Promenade or the inner town of Windenburg would have made more sense, because pedestrians are always walking back and forth, and sometimes they'd come in to shop. But since selling flowers was far from the main plot of the story, I ultimately decided on the residential island of Windenburg. Also, I couldn't find myself passing up on the ocean surroundings, since I could definitely see the Siren characters making themselves at home there. So the actual flower shop in the comic looked quite humble in size, and because of that, I chose to build it on the smallest lot at the center of the island, which EA cleverly named the middle of nowhere. I actually cleared the entire island with the mindset that I will fill it with more comic, manga, anime, or game-inspired builds. I thought doing this would create more interesting gameplay since it would allow cameos to occur within the neighborhood. I can't really think of any YouTubers that do this on a normal basis, except for Lauren Z-Side. I absolutely love her. And like her, I'm a real geek at heart and love the idea of implementing all that geekiness into The Sims. But I'm also a hopeless romantic, and I guess that's also why I created this build. So that aside, I discovered Siren's Lament through a YouTube ad, and I was immediately smitten with the art and the music. For those who haven't read it yet, the creator of the comic is Miso, and the music guy is Kenny. I don't know about other readers, but the fact that there was music playing in the background blew my mind away the first time I came across the webtoon platform, because I've never experienced reading visual stories like that. And if you haven't noticed already, I even added some of the story's background music to this video for some optimal fan experience. I did try to keep the music uplifting, but since the soundtrack is filled with pieces that really pull at your heartstrings, it was kind of difficult. I may end up adding music from another webtoon comic that I'm reading, and if I do, don't worry, it will still be from Kenny, who I know loves to share his music. And that's not to say that Siren's Lament is a tragedy. I mean, it does have its tragic moments with all the surrounding mystery, but it's still ongoing and far from the end, so I'm sure there will be more upbeat music. And as a reader of the comic, the storyline makes me feel all sorts of ways. Like, I always find myself laughing at Ian's goofy nature, smiling at Tua's kindness, but then sad for Pele's gloomy outlook on life. And then the confliction. Oh my goodness, the feeling of confliction in this story is so strong. I mean, in one chapter, I'm shipping Lyra and Ian, another chapter, I'm shipping Lyra and Sean, and then another chapter, I'm shipping Ian and Sean. You've got to read it to understand. Also, I hope you all don't mind my style of commentary where I spread them out throughout the video. Honestly, it's probably just going to happen with long pre-recorded builds like this one, because I've been hammered with the idea that going off on a tangent isn't good, especially for someone in the journalism field. And I'm sure I've already done it a few times, but regardless, I hope you enjoy the build and the music, and I'll be chiming in again soon. So this little hallway leading to the kitchen has been graced by Lyra, Sean, and Ian several times. This is such a small thing, but I found it so unusual that there wasn't a kitchen sink in the comic. I even contemplated with myself about leaving it out because I was so obsessed with following the comic's details as much as I could. But I knew that I couldn't let every detail get to me, since none of the items are going to look just like the ones in the comic. By the way, I hope you are all in for plain white walls because there's a lot of them. Yet surprisingly, they really grew on me. I think it's because I felt like I was in the setting of the comic, but it also gave a crisp and modern feel regardless of the mostly antique and country style furniture. Anyway, back to the hallway. If you have a really good memory, you may remember the door and an open entryway to the sides of the hall. Since I'm caught up with the comic, I've interpreted that the main bedrooms are most likely upstairs. So, with a little imagination, I decided to add a small bedroom on one side and a humble living room area on the other. I thought these additions would be great to accommodate the flower shop employees. If they want a more comfortable nap, there's a bed. If they want to take a break, there's also a sofa and TV to wind down. If they've handled too much earth and soil or sprayed each other down with a garden hose, there's a bathroom and a laundry room nearby. This flower shop is most definitely accommodating to its employees. I mean, I'd work there, there's hot guys too. And have you noticed the fishbowl in the living room? When I start a Let's Play, I'm definitely going to catch me a goldfish and name it Ian. Does that sound familiar? Most of you can probably already tell that this room belongs to Lyra. Finding lookalike items from the comic was probably the most difficult task of recreating this room. Take the stool for example. Because stools aren't exactly standard for sitting at desks in real life, EA understandably didn't even bother to make them usable on lower surfaces in the game. Now, I have all the stuff in expansion packs, and this was the only stool that looked low enough to sit on at this desk. The stool is from Jungle Adventure, by the way, but ultimately this setup is unusable and just for looks. I will share this build in the gallery, so all of you can change that or whatever else you want. Again, I just did it to follow the details of the comic, but later on in the build, you'll see that I do actually add an accessible computer. Welcome to Ian's bedroom. Well, it's actually Lyra's grandmother's bedroom, but since she's staying at the hospital, Ian's been borrowing it. And I gotta tell you, the most tedious part of recreating this room was probably the framed pictures on the shelves above the bed. There's so many of them in the comic, but not enough variety for purchasing in the game. So I did my best to switch it up, and even added those fancy menus used at eateries. I hope all of you like the extra clutter that highlights Ian's disorganization. I even added the sentimental digital camera. This bedroom isn't from the comic, but I personally wanted to add Tua and Pele to the family as well. With the blue touches, all of you can probably guess that this room is for Tua. I made sure to keep the aesthetics close to Lyra's and Ian's room for consistency. And to make it cater to Tua's love for storytelling, I also added a computer and a bookcase. Now, I'm sure all of us Siren readers ship Tua and Pele. I mean, I know for a fact that I'm sailing that ship. My other ships, I'm not so sure, but this one is for sure. And all of you better believe that I'm going to try to get them in the same bed. But for the story's sake, I created separate rooms for them. Creating the layout of the bathroom was kind of a challenge because I definitely wanted the bay window and ottoman looking feature that the comic had. So even though it felt a bit uncomfortable to stretch the empty space and walls, I did it for the sake of the details once again. It also felt odd to leave that little corner outside, so out of impulse I decided to put a litter box there and then added other cat essentials. So far, the comic doesn't have a cat, but I'm sure this little cat area wouldn't be a disservice because Miso actually has a completed comic called Where Tangents Meet that does have a cat called Ranchan. As a matter of fact, there's already been a cameo appearance from that comic. And I'm not sure if all of you have noticed, but I added a piano to the opposite side of the cat area earlier. Like my cat impulse, the comic also doesn't seem to have any piano players. But let's just say it's an ode to Kenny the music guy, because he does an excellent job. Also, I wasn't really sure what else to put there. But I could definitely see Pele playing it. The actual flower shop does not have an underground club, but I really wanted to make something special for Pele since one of her biggest wishes is to dance. I have a real soft spot for her because she's always so gloomy. She deserves happiness, and I thought, what better than an underground ocean themed dance club? I wanted to keep it as a hidden gem, so to make it not look so obvious, I made the entrance like a speakeasy. On the outside, it's a flower shop, and leading up to it is a sort of employee storage area in the back. But if you look closely, there are stairways with modern glass railing leading underground. Although it's far off from the storyline, I felt like it was appropriate since the comic also had a club scene. And imagine the gameplay. I think it'll be far more interesting, especially when all of you see the additional features I put in. So the choices in color are supposed to complement Pele's red mertail and the ocean. Since orange is the closest color to her tail, I settled on it along with the contrasting blue ocean colors. And I love that I was able to find these wall sculptures that look like three-dimensional waves. Then I took it a step further and found these lights that reminded me of seaweed. I know, it's so extra, but honestly the green looked great against the blue too, and it definitely gave a more ocean feel. I also created identical restrooms, a bar that matched the dance area, and of course a pool for our sirens. while to pick the perfect walls for the overall setting, but I eventually found this turquoise and orange stone-packed wall from Jungle Adventure. And I thought it was too good to be true because the colors went so perfectly with the dance area. Also, it gave me this very mysterious City of Atlantis vibe, which I often felt when the sirens went exploring in the ocean. So it was just too perfect. I also added a modern waterfall fountain and an upsized aquarium tank to make it even more ocean-like. I think I did pretty well in creating an enchanting and mysterious atmosphere with the lighting, especially with the stage lights from the entertainment branch. They actually shine different spots of color on the wall, and I personally thought it looked very pretty without being too overwhelming to the eyes. So behind the waterfall fountain is a closed bathroom just for Pele. Like the other bathrooms in the house, I kept it fairly modern and simple, but to make it more personal, I added touches of red here and there. And I know the transition from the club setting to Pele's room is quite drastic, but like the other bedrooms, I wanted to stay true to the modern country theme. So I stuck to the white walls, wooden floors, geometric shapes, and light pine furniture frames. It's not very country, but I think it's still relatively consistent. I really loved this canvas that I came across to put up on Pele's wall. The colors and overall feel of the art just seemed perfect for her. I mean, the person's face even looks like Pele's. And like Tua, I made sure to add colors that complemented her mertail. In addition to serving its purpose as awesome decoration, I think it's really cool that the aquarium tank also serves as a wall. I also made sure to add some musical items that I think Pele would really enjoy. For those who have read comics on Webtoon, I'm sure you are all familiar with how at the end of each chapter, there are always 3 top comments that get featured. Basically, other readers upvote each other's comments, and from what I've seen, it's almost like a medal of honor to make it to the top 3. And I always find comments where readers would express how frantic and eager they were to open up the newly posted chapters. By eager, I mean these readers will stay up late, drop everything they're doing, and count seconds to midnight from their respective locations. And I completely understand. I find myself daydreaming about what may happen next throughout the week of waiting. So, for those who love Siren's Lament and The Sims, I hope this build helps alleviate the wait. I will also be creating a family for this build, so you can all look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Bye bye!